All right, we got a video here that we're gonna watch. We're gonna watch this. This is from WhatCulture. What culture? Is that what it's called? It's WhatCulture Gaming. Okay, they've got a lot of viewers, more than I do. So we're gonna watch their thing. Okay, so this is talking about that the industry reports proves that the gaming industry is broken. Okay, so we're gonna watch this and react to it. If you like what we do here, please make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. If you'd like to go above and beyond that, become a member as little as $5. We do live streams, uploads, gameplay, podcasts, lots of different stuff. Well, the reason we're watching these guys, Travis, is because they're going over data that I can't get because they're part of the industry. So let's watch that.
New video games.
Is everyone still playing Grand Theft Auto 5, Scott Tilford?
Yeah. 11 years later, playing a PlayStation 3 game. Can't get enough of it. Xbox 360 is old over new again. This is a report comes from Newzoo, an analyst firm who did a report based on all platforms and looking at monthly active users.
Yeah, so I looked up Newzoo and I couldn't get the information that these guys had. Okay. So I don't know if you have to pay for this or whatever. So I saw this and I saw someone else's podcast and they talk about it as well, which we might go watch them talk about it as well because they show a little bit more or tell a little bit more information.
For all video games across 2023, and they realized that the average game being played across PlayStation and Xbox was 7 years old. 7.2 on Xbox, 7.4 on PlayStation. The average age of games being played on PC is almost a decade, and then Nintendo's average is 3.9 years.
So look at that. Okay. So people that are playing games right now on the consoles that are out right now, Xbox average years on the market, people are playing 7.2-year-old games on the systems they're on right now. PlayStation's at 7.4 years. PC's at 9.6 years. People on PC are playing 10-year-old games right now on average more than buying new games. Okay? And then Switch is 3.9. Now, think about that. And this is why Nintendo is the winner. Okay? This is why Nintendo is the winner because people are buying the new games that come out for their systems. Okay?
It is interesting here that Nintendo were the only platform to have multiple console exclusives propping up the top 10.
Okay, multiple games, okay, exclusives, okay, in the top 10. Okay? Look at this. Okay? If you look at Xbox's top 5 games, right? None of them are new. I mean, technically Call of Duty is new, but it's an old franchise type of thing, right? So you got Fortnite. We'll skip over Call of Duty a little bit. Grand Theft Auto 5, Minecraft, Roblox, okay? Tom Clancy's, 6 years old? Rocket League's like 6 years old. But look what they're at number 8. Look at that at number 8. Starfield, a single-player game, okay? Every other game here, Minecraft is single player, but it's also multiplayer, right? Starfield is single player, okay? And Hogwarts is not even on this list, okay? But on Switch, you got Fortnite, then you have Zelda, then you have Super Mario, then you have Mario Kart, then you have Minecraft, then you have Pokemon, right? Then you have Fall Guys, Animal Crossing. So Nintendo, on their own platform, has Smash Brothers, Animal Crossing, Pokemon, Mario Kart, Super Mario Brothers, and Legends of Zelda. They have 6 of the 10 top games in what people are playing on their console. But if we look at, I'm gonna rewind this a little bit. If we look at the
played on PC is almost a decade,
hold on 1 second.
And Nintendo's average is 3.9 years. It is interesting.
Okay, if we look at this list, I know it's hard for you guys to see. PC, top games playing on PC right now in 2023 was Fortnite, Roblox, Minecraft, Counter-Strike, Sims 4, Call of Duty, Legends of Zelda, Leagues of Legends, Valorant, Grand Theft Auto 5, and Rocket League. There is not one new game on there in the top 10 played games on PC. Okay? In PlayStation, we have Fortnite, Grand Theft Auto 5, Call of Duty, EA, that's a new game, 24, Roblox, Rocket League, Minecraft, Tom Clancy's, Rainbow Six, Apex Legends, and Fall Guys. So out of the games, you have basically EA Sports, FC 24. That's it. Everything else is a game that's been out and they've been supporting over the years. Okay? Xbox, you got Fortnite, Call of Duty, Grand Theft Auto, Minecraft, Roblox, Tom Clancy, Rocket League, Starfield, Apex Legends, and FIFA. First party title, Starfield. Starfield. What's the first party title over on PlayStation? This is why people make jokes of no one's playing first party titles. Now I get it. Single player games, the most popular games on PlayStation are third party titles. Live service, by the way. Okay. Same with Xbox. Third party games. Well, Minecraft is up there. That's a first party type of game. Okay. And Starfield. Everything else is third party. And then you look at the Switch, you got 6 first party titles on the Switch. Okay. And then you got 4 that are not. Right? So you look at this and go, oh, I kind of see what they're talking about. So if you're on PC right now, the average gamer is playing a 9-year-old game.
Interesting here that Nintendo were the only platform to have multiple console exclusives propping up the top 10. Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom is at number 2, Mario Wonders at 3, and then you've got Mario Kart, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, Animal Crossing, Smash Brothers, all in the top 10, which are only available on Switch. Another notable thing is that Starfield was the only single-player game across Xbox, PlayStation, and PC.
Think about that. The game that got hated about by everybody. Starfield is the only game out of PC, PlayStation, and Xbox. The single-player game. Everything else has multiplayer somewhat inside there.
And to quote Pure Xbox's write-up of the report, players spend over 60% of their...
In general, across all platforms, players spent over 60% of their time playing games that were 6 years or older in 2023, which is an increase from 57% from 2022 and 45% for 2021. And here we are, okay? Here we are where I talk about all the time. Our games come out broke, buggy, and unfinished. Yes, people are buying them, okay? People are buying them. But the problem is, okay, we are the 1% of the 1%ers. When you hear a game come out and it sells 5 million copies, 10 million copies, and everyone's like, oh my God, it's so successful. That's the minority buying that, not the majority. The majority of people are playing games that are 9 years old, 7 years old, right?
Their time playing games that were 6 years or older in 2023, which was an increase from 57% in 2022 and 45% in 2021. The last thing is that only 23% of these games were new releases, with the charts dominated by Call of Duty, Roblox, Minecraft, GTA 5, and Fortnite, which I feel like...
Okay, hold on a second. Let me back up here. There's a spot underneath. It says new releases accounted for 23% of the overall playtime. New releases counted for 23%. See? You see what I'm saying? So the God of War, the Spider-Man, right? The Baldur's Gates, all of these games that came out last year or prior, okay, weren't the majority of gamers. The majority of gamers are buying older games, cheaper games, still playing games they've had for multiple years, right? 23% of the overall playtime also slightly increased compared to 19% in 2022, with the most attention going towards franchises with annual releases such as Call of Duty, NBA 2K, and the rest new games added up to 8% of all playtime across the platforms. Here's a bit more about the 8% figure, right? Can you imagine?
In 2021. The last thing is that only 23% of these games were new releases, with the charts dominated by Call of Duty.
Here's a look at the top 10 games by average for Xbox according to the data, and there you go. You see Starfield, the only single-player game that's there.
Duty, Roblox, Minecraft, GTA 5, and Fortnite, which I feel like people will already have noticed if you ever go on the search bar on the PlayStation. Yeah. It's the same games over and over again. There's only so many slots in that top.
So when you come out with a brand new game, when you're coming out with a brand new game, you're not just competing with the other new games that are coming out. You're competing with the top 10 games that have been out for a decade or more, right? Or 7 to 10 a decade old, right? You're going up against Roblox. You're going up against Minecraft. You're going up against Fortnite. Fortnite came out in 2016, 2017, right? Call of Duty's new every year, but at the same time, it's been around for 20 years, okay? The last 5 years, though, they just keep kind of updating it, okay? It's the Madden football first-person shooters, okay? You're playing against or I shouldn't say you're playing. You're going up against all these games that are live service games that you just keep updating it over time. The only game that made it into last year's stat was Starfield. And that wasn't even a full year, right? Think about that. Hogwarts Legacy sold 23 million copies. Starfield didn't sell that many, but yet people are playing more Starfield than Hogwarts Legacy. Imagine that.
That's it, man. Like I said, I was joking about GTA 5 earlier, but we got the results for the most bought game in the UK over the last year, and GTA 5 was still in the top 10. That thing will never exit, and you can reliably count Call of Duty and Assassin's Creed and Mario Kart and FIFA and a bunch of others as franchises that constantly are in that.
Here, this weekend, I played Star Wars Battlefront 2. I played Sea of Thieves. Sea of Thieves is 6 years old. Star Wars Battlefront is 7 years old. Okay? I played a 7-year-old game and a 6-year-old game. Okay? Now, obviously, Star Wars is a single-player game with multiplayer that doesn't they don't need to support it anymore. Done. Right? And then Sea of Thieves is a live service game. Why do you think more and more game companies are going towards this Fortnite mentality or Call of Duty mentality? They're all looking for that golden goose. They're all looking for that one game that they could create. Hence why Warner Brothers came out with Suicide Squad, because Suicide Squad, they're trying to be like Fortnite. Obviously, it didn't work out. But the percentages, if you make a single-player game and you put a single-player game out, people are going to buy your single-player game, finish your single-player game, and they're going to put it down, which you should do because that's what single-player games do. But these companies are looking for these ongoing games, if it's single player, live service, whatever, so they can keep you coming back, keep updating it, if it's for skins, for content, for whatever. And not all of these games are going to make it. But it's a better choice for the company to put 3 to 5 years into a game that potentially, if it kicks off, it could last for a decade. Where if I go for a single player game, it's a one and done type of thing.
Top 10 and very rarely drop out, and if they do, they're straight back in. This, to me, I don't care what people play, but to me it's worrying because this is exactly why I think publishers are pivoting towards live services.
Yeah, that's exactly why.
And fewer games, but like banking on them in a much bigger way because, yeah, you can make a game that makes a lot of money, but the absolute golden goose, the ceiling they're trying to hit, is a game like a Fortnite, a game like a Roblox that you are playing that is
forever.
Always in the conversation and is...
Right, think about it. Minecraft's been out for over 10 years, right? Been over 10 years. Meanwhile, you have games like Destiny. Destiny wasn't on that list, okay? Destiny wasn't on that list, okay? But Destiny's been around for a decade. Warframe, over a decade. It's crazy. League of Legends, Rainbow Six, 6 years, right? All of these games have been out for years, and brand new game comes out, they're like, well, we got to compete against those guys.
Being in the top 10 most played games 7 years after it released. That to them is exactly what they want, and they will sacrifice everything at the altar of trying to achieve that.
The thing is, like, it's so brazen. Like, if you bring up the games that are actually in the top 10, like I mentioned, you've got your Robloxes, your Fortnites. GTA 5's been in there since day one. It was replaced by the next-gen version that came out in 2014, and then obviously the next-gen.
Path of Exile's been around for 7 years? Maybe even longer.
Version that happened again. GTA 5's just ticked over, and Minecraft and Rainbow Six Siege has quite a tail on it as well, which is interesting.
I was surprised by that because I knew it was huge and had a huge player base, but I had wondered if that had dwindled over the past couple of years.
Well, the problem, Water, when you buy a brand new game for $70 and you have to wait 18 months to 24 months for it to fix, why am I going to play that when I can go back to a game I know that is actually working?
But seems not. Seems like that thing's still going strong.
My overall thing is that, like, that whole thing of like, the industry's pivoting into trying to have their own Fortnite. We've seen that everywhere. You see some Suicide.
There you go. So it's 11 years old.
Squad Killer Justice League is their attempt at making a
or
Fortnite.
10 years old.
It even has the battle bus style missions in it, in terms of protecting the thing or having a battle bus iconography in there. To me, there are only so many slots in this top 10 because in terms of the amount of money they would want to make from those games. And you see it from the likes of Square Enix, where they're perpetually unhappy with anything they put out. But still, the viability of an average gamer picking up a new game, I feel like that's gone down. Like, I have primary research from family members of mine who are regular gamers who aren't picking up games on the regular anymore. I don't know if you've experienced that as well.
Yeah.
I mean, here, so far, look what I've done so far, right? This year, I bought Palworld for $35. Played it. We played it for like 60 hours. I put the game down. Okay. Servers were a little bad when it first came out. Helldivers, paid $35, right? And we played it for 60, 70 hours, I think, as well. Servers had problems when they first came out, okay? But I paid full price for that game, $35 for that game, right? Then we played for Suicide Squad, $70, okay? It had problems, right? Yet I'm going back to a game, Classic Collection. I didn't pay for it, but if I did pay for it, it would have been $30, $35, okay? But it has broke, buggy promises that, oh, we're fixing it down the road. Where I could have just went back and played Battlefront 2 7 years later, and it's a much better experience than the games that come out today. So they're forcing me to not only I buy the new games because I'm hyped about the new game, but then I'm sad because the game is broke and buggy for 13, 18, 24 months, and I have to go buy or go play an older game knowing that, all right, well, I know I'm not going to waste my time here because these games are actually fixed or working or they're good.
But I feel like in general, people play less games, and I wonder whether that's a price point thing, like games are worth more than ever. Sorry, cost more than ever.
Yeah, I don't care if it's early access though, pal. Or Quintar. Pal World is early access. That's fine. That's yet another example, though, what video games do nowadays. They charge you money for a game that's incomplete, broke, buggy. Doesn't matter if it's early access, beta, gold. Doesn't matter. They're all in the same category. A game comes out unfinished, broke, buggy, and they want you to pay the money for it up front.
And then are often more broken than ever as well.
Yeah, man.
But also, like, that whole idea of the live service future or the live service present.
Yeah, did you hear this? They took Once Human, that's in early access, and they're doing a second beta or whatever. Okay, they've added what you do in Pal World. There's Pal World type of characters inside the game now that you can get, and they have different abilities and different things to do. Imagine that. Once Human's like, oh, well, that's popular. Let's put that in our game.
Is that more palatable now? Is that just the way the industry is now? And that attempt to sort of try and make single-player stuff, people are asking for single-player stuff, but then the market only reflects a multiplayer, overall, only reflects multiplayer games. Like the fact that Starfield is the only single-player game in there, Baldur's Gate 3 didn't permeate.
Yes.
Like, that's kind of fascinating.
Absolutely, and I think it's interesting what you...
Oh, and by the way, since they're bringing up Starfield, it hit me in the head here, right? Starfield, even if it's broke, even if it's buggy, even if it's incomplete, right? Or incomplete, not incomplete, incomplete, okay? It's on Game Pass, right? So I'm not dishing that money out front, $100, $70, whatever it is. I could be like, I put 169 hours, 170 hours into this game, right? A little bit more. No, we're at 192. We're at 192. I forget. We're just under 200, right? 192 hours into this game, and I paid $0. $0 because I have Game Pass, and it's on Game Pass, right? So as a consumer, what would you rather have? Pay $70 for an incomplete, broken, buggy game? Or would you rather pay $12 for an incomplete, broken, buggy game? Because there's other games on that platform that I can play.
You say about why aren't people buying new games? Is it the price point? Is it something else? Is it the state that the game's often releasing, like Cyberpunk or something like that? And I think I said this on a podcast a few weeks ago, but I always think about myself because I'm a narcissistic a-hole.
As well you should.
But I think about like my own relationship with buying games, and it's like I have a job where we talk about games all the time, so I've got a big reason to buy them apart from them just being a...
That's the problem, though, right? I'm in the same boat as him. Because I'm a content creator, our job is to talk about the newest games. But there's like an iffy part there because I don't want to buy a game that's broke, buggy, and incomplete. Now I want to tell you if it's broke, buggy, and incomplete. But I'm also advertising that the game is played. They're like, oh yeah, we get people hyped up for a game that comes out, and then it comes out, and you're like a wet towel hitting the ground.
Thing I'm passionate about. I'm fortunately, touch wood.
And then we say, oh, well, at least I had fun. But that's not the point. The point is you can have fun with anything. But wouldn't you have more fun if it was a complete game?
At this moment in time, financially stable enough to be able to pay the £70 price point for a game I really want. And yet, something like Dead Space comes out that I absolutely, have this attachment to, was looking forward to, and I go, I don't know if I can afford £70 this time.
Yeah.
Star Wars Jedi Survivor drops, and I'm scouring reviews for the first time in ages because I'm thinking, even though I'll cover it on for work or whatever, £70 a lot of money, and if it's going to be a little bit broken, like, am I going to regret that decision? So if, as someone who does this for a living and is in the industry or whatever, is questioning it to that level, like surely a more casual player is looking at these games going, ain't no way
Exactly, Quintar. Yeah. Hold my wet towel.
I'm going to play Fortnite because that is free and all my mates play it and it's accessible. It's got cross-platform play. Hell yeah, I'm just going to jump into that.
Yeah, I'm kind of like in a wider sense, I'm fascinated by what brings people to buy the video games. Like, I feel like the last...
And think about that, Water. That's on Game Pass, and you didn't have to pay for it. And I saved you, not that I saved you money, but I saved you your time.
Last big thing we were all talking about, if you go before Helldivers 2, which felt like a big moment this year, of like a lot of people were either curious about Helldivers 2, a lot of people picked up Helldivers 2, and a lot of people talking about like the heyday of Xbox 360, Xbox Live multiplayer, loved all that stuff. To me, the last time that everyone turned heads was Elden Ring. And that was like mid-2022. Like, it's been a long time. As packed as 2020.
Cyberpunk 2077 is kind of awesome. Sure. 3 years later.
Was. I didn't feel like there was a huge thing that you had everybody talking about, the water cooler video games. And I don't know whether that echelon of games is dead, because it's that whole wider conversation about monoculture, and it was so much easier to track specific releases, and we were all the actual fan base was smaller. Like, you had console manufacturers and studios not targeting the mainstream as much, etc.
Yeah.
Like, I'm fascinated by all those conversations, because to me, at least, the monoculture conversation is at the heart of why everything feels so disparate.
Yeah,
and it's like something. You think about how omnipresent the MCU was. A lot of people, or the vast majority of people, either had an opinion on the MCU or they were watching the movies. And since then, in cinema, there's not really been anything like that.
Yeah.
And that's only in the cinema side. But like, I do think that there is an impact from that. And you're seeing it in the games industry. Like, I guess all the top 10s, the Fortnites, the Robloxes, they are almost their own monocultures, but they're kind of siphoned off. Like,
yes.
they're not necessarily permeating outside of their own islands.
Disparate, I think, is...
Yeah, but that's what games have to do. Look, if I was a company, right? Take video games out of this. If I was a company, I could only make one product, and that one product was very successful. If I could make billions of dollars off one item, why would I make two? Why would I make three? If I make two or three, that's more cost, that's more product, that's more things I have to keep, that's more employees I have to hire, right? If I could make one game, and that game can make me billions of dollars, why would I make that game any better if what I have right there works just fine, right? If I make a minimal viable product and that minimal viable product makes me billions of dollars, why would I make that game better? I would just incrementally do stuff like what Fortnite does, like what Apex Legends does, right? What all of these things do. Why? If I would wait until someone else makes a game to compete with me and then change it.
Is the right word there, because you can get these things that are so popular, but they are popular because of
artistic pride. Let me tell you something, Travis. If an artist made all these independent pieces of art, and I'm talking about just an artist on the street painting a picture, right? All of a sudden, I make a painting. It's my own original thing, and someone never buys it. I ask for $1,000 for it, and they're like, "Yeah, no, I don't like your art." But then I take someone else's art, and I'm like, "Oh, let me do this," and I make a popular character of my art, and everyone's like, "I'll give you $100 for that," and I sell 1,000 of them. Guess what? Your artistic pride goes out the window, because your artistic pride is now, well, these things are paying my bills, and I'll pump these fuckers out as many times as I can because that's what's making me money.
Of the communities they attach and attract,
Mm-hmm.
and that doesn't really spread to the mainstream in a way where everyone is talking about it. Like, you're not going to your friends like, you need to play this. You'll recommend it to the people you know who will like it.
Why work 6 months to make DLC when I could put 6 months of skins out in that amount of time that charge $10, right? 1/3 of what DLC I could charge.
You might recommend it to your pal who plays games and get them in, and you'll talk about it online on the Reddits and the Discords, and you'll have that community there, which is great. But like you said, it's so hard to break through and release a game or release a movie or release a television show that everyone feels like they need to drop everything and watch. Like, there have been amazing games, there have been amazing movies, there have been amazing television shows over the last few years, but I think the feeling is because the way we receive that content, and with there being such a volume of content, it's always a pick and choose situation now where it's like, hell yeah, I'm going to watch House of the Dragon at some point, but I'm not watching it week to week like I was with Game of Thrones.
Yeah, that was another one.
I don't feel that need to do it. Same with Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, a game I'm really looking forward to play, but I know I can have that conversation with you at any time, and I can jump on the Reddit.
That's right, Altern. Right? Altern says, oh, you mean like GTA 5? Like, why make DLC when you can have it update for online version, make it expensive and grindy that you can buy the micros? Exactly right. Why am I going to take 6 months to a year to go make a DLC that people are going to buy, play, and put down, when I can make a small little section of a little grindy little game mode, or make a club that you have to upgrade and do different missions, right? The same stuff over and over again, and I can make a crap ton more money. You guys gave me that one video. I forget the YouTuber's name. He was a developer at Blizzard, talking about how he worked on StarCraft, and they worked for years to make StarCraft 2. And when World of Warcraft's mount came out, one mount made more money than the entire game did. So why would I make an entire game if I can make a microtransaction that makes 10 times more than that?
At any time, and
Hired
people
software.
still be
Thank
talking about it. It doesn't feel like it dominated the moment in the same way that the original remake even did 4 years ago.
No, that Thrones is a fascinating one. If you compare the vibes around the original run of Game of Thrones, obviously the final season, lol, it was a tire fire, but the general conversation around the rollout of that show versus the general conversation to the rollout of House of the Dragon, like, that's kind of what I'm getting at. And I feel like you see that in regards to the biggest games that people talk about, or the idea of being excited about a game every couple of months. Most people, and whether it's a financial reason or the marketing reasons aren't showcasing games enough, or something's not big enough, aren't buying into a steady cadence of newer video games. I do think it's interesting. I was looking at, obviously, the PS5 side of things. They don't have a single exclusive or first-party game in the top 10, whereas even on the Xbox side, for as much as they get dragged for not having the game, Starfield was in the top 10.
Yeah, that's very interesting, isn't it? Right? Not one exclusive that PlayStation has was on that top 10 list, but yet Starfield would get shit on as people playing that game. So what's the thought process there, right? Here's the thing. Games need to sell a lot of games at front. Just like movies, when they come out opening weekend, they make a majority of their money week one. Okay? Video games make the majority of their money week one, week two, month one. But after the fact, if it's a fun game, popular game, and they keep supporting it, DLC, non-DLC, they just keep it going. 6 months, 1 year, 3 years later, they can still sell game copies. Hence what No Man's Sky is doing. No Man's Sky doesn't charge anything. $0 for all these DLCs. They just charge what the game is. Okay? It's not even full price anymore. Okay? It came out at $60 back in the day. I think now it's $40 if I'm not mistaken. Okay? That's the full price for correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's like $40, right? It might be $50. I don't think it's $60, but it's $40, and they're still selling 6-7 years later a $40 game.
Yeah.
And Starfield was a major reason to invest in Xbox. I get that the player pool is smaller.
Yeah.
And then if you're still sticking with Xbox, you will pick up Starfield, and it's on Game Pass, so like you might as well.
I guess that's it, right? I think there are a few interesting differences between Sony, Nintendo and Microsoft here. I think a lot of it comes down to the audience and the games they're kind of...
But the point the point of what I'm trying to make is Starfield, regardless of how long it takes, right? If no one's playing it, are you saying that one person's playing it for 1 million hours and he's covering it and that's why it's on the top, right? Multiple people have to be playing it for a longer time and they're not making any money off of it. There's no microtransactions in Starfield right now. There's 0 microtransactions in Starfield right now. It's a game, single-player game that you play and put down when you're done. But yet it's the only single-player game out of all the other games that were on all the other platforms to make it on the top 10 list.
Known for, because I was also shocked that there were no first-party Sony games in there, but I also kind of concede that none of their big first-party releases are on the scale of Starfield in terms of play time. Like, people are encouraged, I think, to play Starfield for hundreds of hours.
That's true. I was thinking, like,
Why would they be encouraged to play it if it's a piece of shit game? Do you see the mentality here? Everyone thought that Starfield was a piece of shit game, but yet, again, it's the only game that was single player that made the list.
like Spider-Man 2, but it's not. Yeah, it's not the same size game.
Even Spider-Man 2, like, you can 100% complete that game, get the platinum in what, 40 hours, 35 hours. Like, they're shorter games.
Well, remember, Sarge, they haven't added the store yet. They are going to be adding microtransactions in it, but as of right now, there's no microtransactions.
Still chunky games, but I can see why people will play those games once, have a great time, and then not keep coming back to them like they would a Fortnite or even a Starfield. A lot of people hate Starfield, fair enough, but the people who like that game are probably still exploring, probably still finding things, probably going through with different builds, kind of like how...
Yeah, but the game's not fun, right? No one's playing it. Why would anyone play Starfield if it wasn't fun? Why would they continue playing it? You see what I'm saying? Now, obviously, I liked it. I thought it was a good game, but a lot of people gave it shit because they said it's not a good game. But yet, again, the only single-player game to make the list.
Oh, you play a Skyrim or a Fallout, it's like got that chunkier RPG mentality. And when you talk about Nintendo, I think that's fascinating because to me, I wonder, and I threw this question out to you before we started recording, how much their list is dominated by first-party games. I wonder how much is that down to the Nintendo Switch not being known as a place for third-party titles, or at least...
Here's the greatest part, right? The 1%er gamers out there that like to console war for Xbox or PlayStation, here's Nintendo. 30 frames in all, okay? 30 frames in all. Coming along with all of their 30 frame rate per game on the more inferior console with less graphical fidelity, with less frame rate, okay? And yet it outsells every single piece of software out there for any other game. 6 games in the top 10. Okay. Water says, hey, Switch is 60 frames at 480p.
It's the best versions of
I was going to say the bigger ones,
titles,
yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, obviously, stuff like Minecraft is on there, but I can see why a Call of Duty, because it's literally not available on the platform, wouldn't be on there, or even Fortnite, which again is available on Nintendo Switch. But
or GTA.
Or GTA, but you wouldn't want to necessarily play that version if you already own a PlayStation or an Xbox, even like a PlayStation 4. You know, you might want to play that version of Fortnite or something.
That's a fascinating thing. So yeah, let's talk about like console exclusive stuff and why you buy a console, because in decades gone by, it would have been for the first party stuff, or at least the intent on the first party console manufacturer's side would be to show off the system under the assumption that it then gets into the top 10 of that year. If something like Spider-Man isn't breaking the top 10, that's a huge blow to the idea of either single
7 million copies. 7 million copies. And remember, this goes across all console games, right? Amy Henning said that less than 50%, all the way up to only 10%, actually complete a game, right? That means 90% of people are not completing a game they buy, okay? Up to 50%, right? Or as little as 50%, right? 50% to 90% of people don't complete a game of single player. And this is why lots of single-player games, this is why a lot of exclusive games are not on this list.
Player games, non-multiplayer games, etc. And I wonder about that, like the whole thing about reading the tea leaves of the industry and wondering what everyone talks a big game about single-player stuff, including us, and I wish there was more of it.
Right. But us talking about single-player games that we like, that will sell that 5 million, 10 million, 7 million, you know, whatever it is, we are the minority of the gaming population. The minority. Sure, they can make a lot of money off of that, but these free-to-play games, these live service games, when they work, and I don't mean work like fundamentally work. I'm talking about business-wise work, where they sell the microtransactions, sell the DLC, keep people coming back every single week, every single month, every single season. That's what's making the money.
but you look at the top 10s across the board, and they're all the live services, the multiplayers, etc. You do get them on Switch, but like you said, that's an interesting thing. If there were more GTA 5s or bigger third-party stuff available on Switch, would that just dominate the top 10, and would you lose the Marios and Zeldas, or are they stronger? Like, I think they're stronger, because it's Nintendo.
Yeah,
but at the same time, I think it's interesting.
I think it's almost a kind of a false equivalency, right? Because I know publishers are going to look at this data and go, we need to make everything Fortnite, we need to make everything Roblox, we need to get people in and have them playing every single day for 10 years, 7 years, get them in that ecosystem. But I think that does overshadow just how successful single-player games have been. Yeah, they might not have made it into these top 10s, but like, Baldur's Gate 3 sold over 10 million copies. Yeah. Spider-Man 2 was Sony's fastest-selling first-party title.
Once they make a game, though, and sell that game, and you play that game, single-player games, they get put down. Right? Not to say they're not successful, but again, only 50% up to 90% of the people don't finish those single-player games. They make the money. Companies make the money. But it's really hard to continue making that money going forward.
Jedi Fallen Order surpassed expectations a few years ago. Survivor sold well. We've seen these big... Dragon's Dogma 2 just sold 2.5 million copies for a niche, obtuse, open-world RPG tied to a franchise that a lot of people didn't know about. The point I'm trying to make is we're seeing all of these successes, but again, does that matter to the publishers, or are they chasing that golden goose of...
They're always chasing that golden goose. Epic wanted to make Fortnite into this tower defense game. They put 8 years into that game. It completely bombed. Saved the World completely bombed. Okay? What saved the world for Epic was Battle Royale Fortnite. And now they've invested heavily into that.
Yeah, obviously selling 10 million copies is good, but what if we sold 10 million copies and people were still playing the game 7 years later and buying all our microtransactions? What about that, Josh?
That's the specific nexus of the whole thing. Like some studios will see 10 million players and be like, oh my God, 10 million players, that's awesome. What are we doing next? Another publisher will look at 10 million for a single player game and go, oh my God, that could have been 10 million microtransactions. Why did we not do that? And then let's plug more content, let's monetize this and keep going. Tekken 8. And that's because you get people like Sven Vinke over the head of Larian saying that we don't believe in microtransactions. I think it was the same thing on the CD Projekt Red side as well. For Witcher and that kind of stuff. And it's just interesting, like that idea of like, what is the market?
Rowick says, I've only played one single player game several times, and that's Witcher 3. I'm trying to think of a game that I played single player multiple times. One would be Mass Effect 2. Transformers, Fall of Cybertron, but multiple times, maybe 3 times, 4 times. I'm trying to think of another single player game. Ultimate Alliance 1, 2, and 3. I've played about 4 or 5 times each with those types of games. Baseball games, football games. I play through like multiple seasons. That considered a single player, right? I played Skyrim twice, Fallout twice, but I don't go back and play them multiple times. But I go back and play, an online service game quite a bit. I've been playing Division for the last 5 years. I played Destiny for 6 years. I played, you know what I mean? Like those games you keep on playing.
Respond to. Something like Helldivers 2 is a massive success. And I'll be interested to see if Newzoo does another report this time next year where the Helldivers 2 was in the top 10. And that's different in terms of monthly active users to overall revenue, but in terms of microtransactions. But that whole thing of what is the market responding to, there's always an underlying assumption that the market responds to quality, single player, storytelling, big things that made impacts in previous generations.
Yeah.
I have a question though, Crowded. Did you play those games because, and I'm not trying to make fun of you in any way, shape, or form, because of financial reasons when you were younger, or was that older in life, right? Did you have money or did you have no money? Because a lot of us, I used to play the sports games over and over and over and over and over because that was the cheapest form of entertainment for me because I would buy it once and I could play it 1,000 times. Do you know what I mean? So because of Mario, I don't even know why none of the Nintendo games came out. I must have beaten Mario 100 times, right, over the years, right? But that's because I didn't have any money, so I just kept playing the same game over and over again,
Whereas now, because the offset is 7 years, you've still got people clinging on to stuff or repeatedly playing stuff that was successful a whole generation or 2 generations ago.
I mean, there's so many interesting things here, right? And I want to throw a question over to you, because we're talking about like publishers looking at this data, but I also think like, and I'm not the first person to say this. In fact, I saw a few people talking about it in regards to Palworld's play drop off.
97% drop.
That's it, right? But I don't think, for me personally,
What's the 97%?
First person to say this. In fact, I saw a few people talking about it in regards to Palworld's play drop off.
97% drop.
That's it, right? But I don't think, for me personally,
Yeah, that's 97%, but not only did it's early access, they got that money up front, right? We read the article about the company of Palworld that they made so much money, it's too much money for them, for their size company. Okay? So they made their money. They're successful. They technically don't even have to sell any more copies for years, and they would be okay to start investing that money into other games they want to make, or put it back into Palworld and get people to come back.
that discourse isn't really helpful in the way we talk about games now, and we analyze their success not in terms of sales or even player satisfaction, but in terms of retention. And are you still playing that game? For me, that's very alien. Maybe it's because I'm used to older games, but like a lot of people, I saw that drop off to Palworld, and I was like, well,
you're always going to get that drop off, though. You're always going to get. Remember, Palworld is technically a single player game. It's a single player game with multiplayer aspect to it. You can invite your friends on a server, okay? But you're always going to have that drop off. Doesn't matter what game it is.
well, yeah, it's a game that came out months ago. People have moved on to something else. Some games are like kind of finite, even if they have, open-ended structures or are survival games. People were talking about other single-player games that released last year. I think Spider-Man was one as well, talking about the player drop-offs. Why is no one still playing this game, and why a few people...
Yeah, where are those reports of the Spider-Man fans? What's the player base on Spider-Man, right? If you talk about games like, well, Starfield lost all its players, where's the reports for Spider-Man's player drop-off, right? And again, I'm saying this because they're single-player games. Once you beat them, you put them down.
Still playing this game, and it's like, because we finished it, and I will play Spider-Man 2 at some point, but it's not a game that's even designed for me to keep coming back to. So I do think that's a part of the, not necessarily problem, but the sort of fixation on retention and hour length and that sort of side of the industry.
I feel like I'm freaking out because I'm just thinking that applies so much to like all IP right now.
Yeah,
like how do we bloat this IP and do another 5 more of these? How do we keep it going? How do we stretch this out and over?
Ooh, I know. Make a game, sell a game. Make DLC, sell that DLC.
Monetize it, and that general approach is the thing that has just driven so many of these the want for this stuff straight into the ground. I just that whole thing. The thing is, like, for a healthy industry, and obviously the model of success is going to be based in maybe nostalgia or a bygone generation. It depends on the individual. Do you think the current gaming industry is healthy? Does it feel healthy? Does it feel like it's viable for really good gameplay ideas and creativity?
I think the current industry is healthy for a few, but not for all, right? For as unhealthy it is for many companies going bankrupt or losing or closing studios or cutting players, yet Baldur's Gate 3 is successful. Why? Because they made a game and sold that game and they're successful. Palworld made a game, potentially, because it's still in early access, but they're successful, okay? So there are companies out there that have made a game, sold that game, and they're successful in this current industry. And yet other companies are not successful because they didn't make a game. Suicide Squad.
And a lot of that comes down to the idea of, can experiences be finite? Like the generation we're comparing it to, or past generations, is that you would play through a set of games a year, and they were that year's games.
Yeah.
And I do think there is a negative to that, because there was a whole thing about people don't go back through their games back in the day, and you'll get so much more out of something replaying it. But that's different to monetizing the grind, and that's different to bloating things and stretching it out and doing another installment in something just for the sake of stretching out an IP.
Absolutely.
And I want more smaller games that you actually finish. Like, it's so rare that you hear where I go, oh, that game, even now, Dragon's Dogma 2 averages like 20-30 hours. That's still 20-30 hours.
Unless you played it for 70 like me. But yeah, it certainly does.
But still, like, that idea.
I'm okay with games around 20 to 30 hours. I don't want 70 to 100, 200 hour games, right? Like I played Starfield for 200 hours almost, but I'm okay with the 30-hour mark, man.
Of like whenever we find out that there's like a really good sort of 8 to 10 hour game, it's like, oh, thank God, I'll actually finish it. Like, great. I mean, I'll try and hit credits on a main thread of anything, but like if it's something that, like I said, is designed to be completely consumed in a weekend, and you have a lovely weekend with something, I don't know. To me, that's a healthier industry. But I get the publisher expectation is if they're always aiming for the Apex Legends and the Fortnites, it's never going to be enough.
Yeah,
but
man.
No story game ever would be.
And I understand even player expectations. If they're
Even though I gave Suicide Squad some shit, I'm okay with the story. I'm disappointed that they didn't continue that story in the season 1, right? I think the games like Marvel's Avengers and Suicide Squad, that story, 10, 15-hour story campaign is fine. But as a live service game, you got to keep that story going.
expected to pay more money now for these games, $70 for a game, and it is quote unquote only 15 hours. I get their frustration. That might be the one game they can afford to buy all year at that price point, and you want it to be longer. You know what I mean? You don't want to pay that much money for.
Well, Dave, if the main story is like that, then no. But if a game is like 100 hours, 40 plus, but the main story is like 25, 30 hours, I'm cool with that. I'll just do the main campaign and not do as many side quests.
8 hours of copy and pasted mission design, Suicide Squad again. So I do get that side of it as well as the publisher side of it. But I also look at the sort of lack of new releases in this top 10 list and new franchises, and we're looking at stuff like Fortnite, which was established 7 years ago, Call of Duty, which has been around forever. And I wonder how much of it is a sort of self-fulfilling prophecy, because the games that are maxing out these lists are established franchises. But at the same time, we've got publishers who are openly saying, we're not taking a risk on new IP, so that's...
A 2-weekend game would be cool. 2 weekends. How many hours are you putting in for the 2 weekends, Quintar? You putting like 4, 5 hours a day? Or you putting like a full 8, 10?
It's not even coming through anyway. So if all they're willing to make is franchises, of course, that's all these lists are going to be made up of anyway. So I wonder if that's...
Yeah, Travis, like between 20 and 30 hours for a main campaign, now obviously I don't want every game to be like that, but that's the game that I would most likely play through the story, right? Which I think in Starfield, you can go through the main story in less than 20. I think you can do it in less than 15.
That's kind of like when they were saying, and I always go back to this, no one plays horror games, single-player games are dead. And it's like, yeah, they're going to be dead if you stop making them.
Yeah.
You can force that narrative in a way, and I wonder how much is that... Is the publisher sort of discourse eating its own tail with stuff like this? I don't know.
Well, the thing is, like, the fact that you can argue Starfield's success is because it's Bethesda. That's obviously part of it, but that is a new IP, and that did get to number 8 in the overall most played games of the year. It was above FIFA 23 and Apex Legends. So, like, and there was that whole conversation around Starfield about, oh, dude, games don't sell consoles, and the Phil Spencer side of things. It's the service, it's the Game Pass, it's the ecosystem. That's what people are going for, and maybe that's true. I'll always just say games sell consoles, because they literally do.
Yeah.
Like, someone bought a PlayStation 3 to play Metal Gear Solid 5. They bought an Xbox to play Starfield. Console sales spiked when Starfield came out. How hard is this?
Yeah, but let's be honest, though. Games do sell consoles, but you have to have... Like, Call of Duty could sell you either an Xbox or a PlayStation, right? And some people just buy the console for that one game. But it's really hard. It's got to be a really good game. Like, you're not buying a console because of Palworld. You're not buying a console as much as it for Helldivers. You might get that game like a God of War, like a Halo, like a Grand Theft Auto, like a Call of Duty, right? Like, that would sell a console, whatever console that is, okay? But not every game is like, oh, yeah, I got to play Payday 3. I'm buying that console. That's not happening.
But still, that whole thing of is it enough though? That idea of retention, like you get the news headlines saying that the player base.
Same, Water. I bought Nintendo, but I justified it because I knew there's a shit ton of other games, and I had a kid. If I didn't have a son or a daughter, or whatever, right? Like I wouldn't have bought the Switch just for that game. But I justified it myself for what it is, because I was like, oh, well, I'm going to play this game, and it's got a shit ton of other games as well.
Base has dropped off. In a healthy industry, that headline wouldn't exist. I think that it exists because of clicks. I get that. I get the business reality of that, because we have the reaction to it, and you want to click in and see what's going on. But like I said, in a healthy industry, we wouldn't even care about retention. You would be expected to finish the game in a weekend, in a week, in a month.
That's
like
true.
that.
Yeah, but my point though, L, those games are few and far between of one game selling and moving consoles like that.
That's how, at least to me, it should be. But I know that I'm born in 1989, and I think that way.
I think even then, even if the games themselves have an open-ended tale, have a big end game, are always online games like something I love, like Call of Duty Warzone.
Call of Duty sells, hence why they bundle it with it. You know what I mean?
I still think it's a strange way to look at it, because it's like, it's not just for me. Are people still playing? Because there are a multitude of reasons.
Altern says, stat-wise, there's more people playing Starfield on Xbox than PlayStation.
Reasons as to why they might be. You know, we talked in the Tekken 8 video about how that might just be because you bought a battle pass and you feel obliged to jump on to do your dailies, to grind that out. You want to get your money's worth. It's like, I think a better metric is, are the people who are still around enjoying themselves? Are they getting good content? Are they playing for a reason, or are they playing because, one, that's a game that's easily accessible, and two, because they've got all of these different dopamine hooks into them, like games get into my own brain as well, that encourage them to keep coming back for more, even if the content itself isn't all that satisfying.
Well, yeah, I mean, especially with the younger audience, like it's obviously so. I mean, there was so much discourse going on as we were growing up about like how addictive video games were and whatever. But like those potential hooks have only got more nefarious, and then now they're monetized. But yeah, something like Fortnite, Roblox, Minecraft is going to skew a lot younger than a Call of Duty or a GTA. And then you have that audience that is pre-built to just to expect, well, I can get a few years out of this game. In the case of Minecraft, that's 14 years old now.
I think Minecraft and
Minecraft 14 years old? Jesus.
Fortnite are really interesting case studies, because we look at those games as being as old as they are, and I wonder how much of their player base have aged out of it. Not saying that those games are exclusively for younger people. You know, I still jump into Fortnite from time to time. I've got a lot of friends who play Minecraft, but you know, I imagine a lot of players who jump into those games, like Minecraft or Fortnite, might be someone's first ever game.
Yeah.
You know, Fortnite especially. Fortnite's free. You get a game console, you get a phone, you can play a Fortnite. You can. That's again, it's an access thing. All of your friends at school could be playing Fortnite, but if that's your first game, it's like, why would I buy something else? This has got me almost for life. We're gonna have all of these new updates. We're gonna have this.
That's true. It's true.
Cross-media approach where why would I want to go and buy Spider-Man for $70 when I can play
My son's been playing Minecraft for 6 years. He's 9. He's been playing it since he was 3.
Spider-Man and Fortnite?
Yeah.
You've got Dragon Ball Z characters in there. You've got John Wick in there. Why would I ever want to leave this ecosystem, especially because everyone else is playing it, and they keep giving me reasons to log back in, and that's all I've ever known as well, because it's been my first ever video game.
Yeah.
And is this not just the norm? Are we not supposed to keep playing this?
I don't think that that'll change. I think the people who are in those bubbles or in those ecosystems aren't going to be leaving them. Like in terms of the player numbers, like I'm not suddenly going to get back into Fortnite like after that initial bubble blew up. Like
Right. As an older gamer, you'll go back and forth, but the younger group is like, this is Nintendo's mentality, man. This is Nintendo's mentality. And there's third-party companies doing that for like Fortnite and Call of Duty, Roadblock type stuff. But Nintendo has that baked in. Mario, Zelda, Metroid, Pokemon. They have those IPs that are baked in for the younger generation as they get older. No matter what comes, Quintar's saying it. Zelda, Mario, a few others made me buy the Switch. This is why we buy the next Switch. Yeah. Because you know those brands, and you know those brands are coming back, and there've always been good games.
it retained the people that it retained, the people who are in or loving the fact that they're in. To me, the thing that'll have to change, depending on whether, as an industry, as an art form, we even care about shorter games, story-based games, whatever, stuff that isn't live service, and multiplayer, is the publisher expectation. It'll have to be, this game doesn't need to sell hundreds of millions of copies. They set a designated sales figure, and that's okay.
Yes.
And it's okay that it's not in the top 10. But I get what Phil Spencer was talking about he has shareholders to please, and he doesn't have the luxury luxury of not thinking that way.
Yeah.
Like at a certain echelon of production, I get the Western capitalistic side as well.
Yeah.
Not in favor of it. I just want quality stuff. But I get the wider machinations of it that keep leading to this.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the
You know what irritates me? Personally, the man that's talking is covering his face with his hands. Now, I understand my microphone's covering, but I'm not like this. Hey, guys. What's going on? You know what I mean? Hey, it's like, hello? You're on camera.
takeaway point.
Move your hands.
If you have watched this long, thank you very
Big
much.
fan of you, to be
The point
honest.
is not we should only have single-player games or 8-hour games or we should have no live service games. The point is we need an industry where all of these things can exist together and we're not just chasing one model, like you said, where publishers can set expectations and be happy that they sold 20 million copies of a Harry Potter game or 10 million copies of Baldur's Gate 3 and not view those sales as missed opportunities for even more money. Because you can have your live services, you can have your single-player games, and surely you're making enough money.
Well, the amount of money that's doing the rounds at the minute is only between all the live service multiplayer stuff. But the likes of Sven Vinke talking about Baldur's Gate 3 and being happy about it. He's like one of the only CEOs who's actually happy about the fact they didn't break into the top 10.
Dude, bloody Assassin's Creed Valhalla made $1 billion. How can you not be happy with that, man? Come on.
That's because it cost them a shit ton of money as well. All right.
Josh Brown, people.
So that is WhatCulture Gaming. Give that a like because he watched it. So their link is in the description down below as well.